Hey, it's Matt from idjnow. I'm joined here by Maio from Yamaha, and he's going to talk to us about the new DM3 digital mixers.
Hey everyone, this is Maio from Yamaha. I'm here at idjnow to present to you all the DM3 series of new Yamaha digital compact mixers. The DM3 comes in two different flavors, DM3-S, which is standard, and DM3-D, which includes a Dante port on it. And Dante is a digital audio networking protocol, so you can communicate digitally with different musical instruments or products that have Dante connectors to it. It makes it very special for installs, using Cat5 cable and that kind of thing versus audio cable. This particular model that we're going to be using for this video is a DM3-S, does not have that port, but all the other features are going to be the same between both models. Both DM3 models offer 22 total channels of I/O. That includes 16 channels of analog inputs, 8 channels of analog outputs, 18 by 18 audio interface on the USB-B port, and so that is interfacing with Digital Audio Workstation, a DAW recording software, which, by the way, both of these include a version of Cubase AI recording software. You have your 9-inch capacitive touchscreen. You have 8 physical channel faders, 1 physical master fader. You have on buttons for each channel, Q buttons for each channel, and select buttons for each channel. You have a touch and turn knob. You have your monitor output, and this is your headphone output. You have a USB port here, which is a data and audio port, so you can load and save settings, and you can play back and record in stereo audio to a thumb drive or an iOS device or an Android device. Down here, you have your fader banks, and so this you will see 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. You have your effects and monitor outputs. You have your other bus outputs, which will include your monitor outputs and your matrix outputs. You have your home button with a nice little home icon there. Wherever you are on this board, this will take you to your main point of view. You also have user-definable keys. These you can assign any number of parameters to. You can do master mute groups, all that stuff. If you will be using the DM3 as a DAW controller, we have a custom button press right here that will take you to the DAW Remote section, where you will be able to use the faders to control the faders on your digital audio workstation and some other functions like transport. If you have a session that you're working on, if you have a particular mix you're working on and you want to come back to it, you can go into the scene settings and you can record and save your own scenes. Now, the DM3 offers you 2 banks of about 100 each scenes that you can save to, and it also offers, as you can see right here, a lot of presets. So if you're going into a situation where you don't have a lot of time to set up, then you have some blank canvas. Say you're doing sound for a rock band, I can recall that right now, and you will see, when I press my home button again, you will see tracks up here with different labels, different icons, preset EQs for some of them. So a really great opportunity for you to get good sound quickly. Customers, clients, bands, all of that can be saved via the scenes. Now, one of my favorite features on the DM3 is the Gainfinder function. What Gainfinder is it allows you to get the perfect gain for your microphone right off the bat. So what the Gainfinder will do in one very quick adjustment, it will allow you to speak into your microphone, or if you have a keyboard in here, any source really of audio, you just start using the touch and turn knob and look on the screen, and you go until you hit that little green line. Now that is the perfect amount of gain. So starting from here, as long as you're performing at the volume that you will be performing at once the project or performance starts, you will be set up for the rest of the session. The next step is to get this sound out of this board to wherever you're going. And it's as simple as just raising your master fader and your channel fader of the channel that we have selected. And now you will hear ideally gained up sound from whatever you're going through, studio monitors, your main speakers, all that stuff. It is that easy. What is the next step here in our signal chain? How do we want to clean this sound up to make it sound the best that it can? The tool that we have in the DM3 is this EQ right here, which is a parametric EQ. It'll let you change with the touchscreen or with the touch and turn knob, your center frequencies, the Q, which is the bandwidth around the center frequency that you're working with, and let you glide it around. We have a one knob component to it. So one knob does 2 things. It can either change the EQ you have and make it a little bit more intense or bring it back. We are going to use it in vocal mode. Going to vocal resets the EQ, so you have a flat spectrum, and equalization is how we're going to change the timbre of the vocal or the instrument that's coming through this. And with the touch and turn knob, all we're going to do is turn it clockwise. changing it little by little, the first thing that happens, you can see here, the low end is cut. Most vocals, either spoken or performed if we're doing singing, don't really need to have that extra low end that's in your chest and all that come through the speakers. It usually just muddies up the articulation of whatever you're trying to say or sing. If we keep going, you will see, and those of you who are familiar with audio and EQing, it's doing something that you probably would do intuitively, which is cut a little bit of low mid-range, which also can muddy up the signal depending on what the scenario is musically. If you keep going, this will just cut a little bit more of the lows and low mids. We do have also 2 frequency centers up here as options for you depending on whatever vocal you're working with, whatever gives it a little bit more clarity and airiness. So without knowing EQ, all you had to do is press a button, turn a knob, and now you have a really amazing starting point. The next step is a feature that we ported over from our MG series of mixer, a one-knob compressor. That is a way for those mixers and this mixer now digitally to bring up in the signal, when there are inconsistencies, bring up the lowest sounds to a little bit more of an audible level and bring down the highest volumes so that they don't create unnecessary peaks. And it basically balances out the dynamic, the volume of whatever source you're working with. This one is called a gate. It's a noise gate. So the microphone will not open up to receive volume until it meets a certain volume threshold. That's what a gate does. Some applications of a gate would be if you are miking a drum set, for instance, and you may not hit your toms as much as you hit your snare, your cymbals, your bass drum. So you might want to put a gate on your tom microphone so they're not open all the time and they're not picking up leakage from hi-hats and snare and all that, and so they're only actually sending sound through the board when they're hit. And so that's, as soon as you hit it, the gate opens up, you get the sound, and then the gate closes and you don't get all that bleed. Okay, I've initialized my board. If all you had to do was look at the brand and model of the microphone that you're using, or if you know what kind of instrument you're using, Yamaha built into this board presets for you so that you could just call something up and you're ready to go. Initially, when we had the TF series of mixers, they sent a TF1 and some DXR speakers to different top microphone manufacturers such as Shure, Audio-Technica, Sennheiser, and most recently Audix, and they sent us back EQ curves, gain settings, or in some instances compressor settings as well for all of their microphones that you can call up. So from my home screen, I will go to this little preset area, and you'll see here a list of microphone settings, which is awesome. And if you can look at subcategories as well, so you can either look at all of them. I find that a little daunting. There's a lot of models in there, but you can dial it in if it's guitars, if it's spoken word at a podium mic. We're going to do vocal in case I'm singing. From these presets, I'm just recalling the head amp, which is that thing we saw in Gainfinder, you know, the initial level of your input, and the name. So I'm going to recall that, and you will notice, I'm going to press the home button here, that my channel switched to green, so it changed channel. It's labeled vocal. There's a little microphone icon there. And if you look at the home panel here, you'll notice on Gainfinder there's already plus 30 gain on there, and you'll notice an EQ curve. And that's the EQ curve that Shure gave us. It said this is what we think our SM58 should sound like, and here's a curve for that. On some settings, such as drum mics and stuff like that, they might have dynamics, so compressor on a snare or bass drum. But this already, with you just knowing what mic you have and what model, what brand and model, you already have an amazing starting point, and all you have to do is bring the master fader up and the linear fader of your channel, and you're good to go. A few other features that we want to touch on are effects, and this DM3 does have 2 effects buses. You can access them by the touch buttons up here, FX1 and FX2. Sorry, there you go. And you can just press on the icon for the effects. It has a few different reverbs, some delays, some other effects here. One might be concerned about, well, what if I lose power in the middle of a session or middle of a performance? Will I lose all of these settings that we already dialed in? And the answer is no. If this mixer powers down for any reason, when you power it back up, it'll come back exactly where you left it off. So in addition to just getting great sound, you are able to record your live performance through the USB port. Another thing that might not be so intuitive is flying in tracks. Sometimes you have backing tracks in live performance that you might not want to use a USB for. If you have a laptop with a multi-track session set up, you can choose where to feed each channel from, either directly on the back of the unit, either feeding it from a digital snake, or you can feed it from your DAW. So there's a way to use virtual tracks with analog. Now, I mentioned a digital stage box. If you're using this live or in a studio where you have your performance room and your control room separated, we do make a TIO 1608-D2 that is a digital stage box. So you can use the network connection on the DM3 with a Cat5 cable, RJ45 I think it's called, to feed all of the audio from the TIO to your DM3 board. All of the inputs and outputs are there. You can route what's going to and coming from using the Dante software or the built-in quick configuration presets on these boards, which will just automatically label those inputs and outputs. So that is a fantastic way of setting this up if your board is not close to your performers. In addition to the 9 motorized faders and being able to use the DAW control, which if you press Custom 1 and Custom 2 layer buttons here, you will be able to see your DAW control here. Now this is set up natively to work with Steinberg software such as Cubase, Nuendo, but it also uses Huey control, which I believe are the protocols for some other DAWs out there. So no matter the DAW, you should be able to use this as a controller for it. There's different auto modes you can select as well, and again, this will control the faders on your DAW from the hardware. Now what about live streaming? There are certain ways to route if you want to do separate mixes for different mediums. So you might want to have a mix that goes to one social media environment and another one for a different purpose, and you can use the matrix outputs and do different mixes through those outputs to go to those different mediums. You can do it all at once. Okay, now stepping away from the physical DM3 console, we do have an engineer app called Stagemix DM3. You have pretty much the exact same layout that you have on the unit itself. So if you're looking for Gainfinder, if you're looking for your EQs, all those live here, and it's the exact same look. So you don't have to worry about, well, does my app work differently than my board? And it doesn't. It's the exact same thing. Now, if you, the engineer, trust your performers enough to manage their own monitor mixes, you can have up to 10 instances of MonitorMix app, which allows the performer, whoever is getting a monitor mix, to actually, you can feed them the different channels that are on their monitor feed, and they'll see them pop up on their app once they cue into the channel that they need to cue into, and they can create their own mix. In some instances, it's really helpful for seasoned performers to be able to give themselves a little bit more of themselves, a little bit more of whatever backing tracks they need, and bring down whatever else they don't need.
Big thanks to Maio from Yamaha for talking to us about the new DM3 digital mixers, and you can order them here at idjnow.